Um, so good morning once again to everyone. Thank you for joining this session at the Africa Digital Skills Conference 2021. Today, I'm hopeful that this will be one of the very informative sessions that we are looking to build very critical and very essential skills for us as information consumers, information producers, and information sharers in whatever way or whatever means. Fact checking. So we are going to talk about fact checking and essentially tackling misinformation, or I'm using misinformation loosely here. We'll be talking in details about the kinds of false information, the kind of the different types of information disorder, as we'll say. All right. So outline. First, we'll be talking about what fact-checking is. We'll look at why it matters today, and then we'll look at the difference between misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. So for fact-checkers, or for those who talk about false information or generally information disorder, there are three broad categories under which information disorder falls under. First one is misinformation. We also have disinformation, and then we have malinformation. So we'll be looking at the difference between them. And then we'll also be talking about the forms of false information, the forms in which these kind of misrepresentations come in. And then we'll look at some tools for fact checking, and then we'll end with practical skills, which obviously is the core or at the heart of the Africa Digital Skills Conference. All right, so first, what is fact checking? I don't know if anyone can unmute, maybe just someone who wants to guess what fact checking is. I think anyone can unmute and just give your own understanding. No volunteer?
Hello.
Okay, Ransford. No, you can go ahead and speak, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I think checking the authenticity of an information.
Can you please introduce us? Daniel, right?
Daniel, yeah.
Okay, so checking the authenticity of information. All right. So yes, you're right. So fact checking essentially is investigating verifiable claims to ascertain the accuracy, like Daniel said, and provide an accurate, unbiased report to correct public misconceptions and increase general knowledge. So there are key things that fact checking does. So first, you are investigating viable claims to ascertain their accuracy and provide an unbiased report. So there are a few highlights. One is the fact that fact checkers are investigating verifiable claims. And I'm saying verifiable claims because sometimes, because of the word fact checking, people presume that everything can be fact checked. But sorry to disappoint us, but not everything can be fact checked. So for instance, for people who call themselves professional fact checkers or things like that, you cannot, for instance, fact check an opinion. So an opinion is not a verifiable claim. So if a politician says that Ghana would be able to produce its own cars next year, as big or as ridiculous as that sounds, it's not something that a fact checker or anyone can fact check, because it is an opinion. The person is expressing an opinion based on his or her own beliefs. If someone says Jesus is coming tomorrow, it's the person's opinion. It is not a claim that can be verified. So so opinions cannot be fact checked. Number two, you cannot fact check people's beliefs, for instance. So if someone is based on a person's beliefs, the person is making some comments, you can't fact check that because it's based on the person's beliefs. So again, it ties into an opinion. The second one is also a prediction. So if someone is making a prediction, like the example I gave earlier, for instance, you cannot fact check that. So two things that you cannot fact check. One is people's personal opinion, and then number two is prediction. So if someone is predicting something to happen tomorrow, if the meteo agency or the weather report is saying it's going to rain tomorrow, it's not something you can fact check because it's a prediction. So that is it for verifiable claims. So the claim must be verifiable. The second one is that fact checkers usually write reports to explain whatever information or whatever they are talking about. All right. So that's it for fact checking. So what does why does it matter? So fact checking matters because obviously truth matters. Fact checkers are always looking out for the truth. And without fact checking, anyone else or all of us can end up making choices that are based on inaccurate information. And the danger about this is that if you are making choices based on false information or based on certain information that are not true, you can end up making very costly mistakes. So let's say let's take an example in the area of democracy, for instance. If based on someone's propaganda or based on false information during a campaign period, people make certain propaganda, and based on that, you decide to vote for a particular candidate and not the other, it can be an error that could cost you or the country, because at the end of the day, you made a wrong choice or you voted for someone based on the lies that you were fed. So that is why it matters. Let's look at in the area of health. If someone peddles misinformation, and the closest would be COVID. So if someone says drinking alcohol, for instance, cures COVID, and people rush to drink alcohol, it could end up with people having complications. So that is to the extent to which fact checking is very important, and the fact that false information or wrong information could lead to very dire consequences. So it's always important to advocate for the truth in whatever information is shared. Let's move on. So the basis for fact checking, or what has given roots or the grounds for making fact checking very important, is the fact that the model for information these days has changed. And I'm saying this because we have a system where previously how the news organization or how information used to spread many years ago or several decades ago. First, there were very few content creators that we could perhaps call in this context. Let's just say there were very few journalists. There were a particular publishing house or very limited number of media organizations. And in these media organizations, there were editors, sub-editors that the information goes through before it finally gets to the radio for people to hear, or before it gets to TV for people to watch, or before it gets to the newspaper for people to read. And it gets to the masses. So what this information system does is that it's by the time the information gets to the consumers, information has been sieved through to make sure everything has been cross-checked, to make sure that there is very few, or in fact there is no error or there's no false information in it. And so it was very let's say a more friendly system, or a system that was less prone to having false information going out. But that was the old information ecosystem. But now we have a new order. We have a new information ecosystem where everyone, essentially all of us, are content creators. So this conversation or this conference we are having now, it's an information we are producing. It's an information we are sharing. And with you having your personal Facebook account, your personal Twitter account, personal Instagram account, you are also an information creator. And so, as you can see in the diagram, there are lots more of content creators, and they are using their individual mediums or their individual media, that is their mobile phones, their personal computers, their iPads, or their tablets, as those are essentially their media houses. Those are the tools they use. And with the internet being an enabler, they are able to distribute their contents to all these major platforms, and these contents reach their thousands and tens of thousands of their friends. They are, I mean, there are a lot of influencers these days on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, Snapchat, and all of that. All these people create information daily, and this information is consumed by the millions of people online. So the challenge or the difference between these, the main difference between these two is that the system of filtration are very, very limited. And so if I decide to post something on my Facebook, nobody goes through to determine whether what I'm posting is true or false. And I'm sure many of you have a lot of examples that you are able to share concerning something that you've seen online that you perceive or that you believe that, well, this thing I'm reading, I was at the scene, it didn't happen. So how did this person put out this report that this thing happened? So this is the example of the challenges that we are seeing in the current or the new information ecosystem. So with these two hand in hand, can anyone just share maybe a personal example of something you perceived to be a certain form of false information or a certain level of wrong information you saw on the internet? Anyone can unmute and then just share an experience with regards to your experience in the new information ecosystem. Anyone? Any volunteer? Or maybe I should try mentioning some names. Solomon? Solomon, can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Yes, so do you have any experience to share based on these two distinctions about the old information ecosystem and the new information ecosystem? Where with the new information ecosystem, we have very limited forms of, how do you call it, investigation and probing to make sure that the information that goes out is very accurate. Solomon, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't talk now, please.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So let's look at the difference between. Okay, yes.
I wanted to just go back to the old.
Okay. Yes, Winnie.
Yeah, I guess because of the many channels that are there, the information ecosystem, the new information ecosystem, because of the many channels. Before you verify, it's already been like I work with a media house. So by the time you verify information, it has already gone viral because you post a tweet, somebody has already tweeted the information. Maybe it's a scandal about a minister. So they've already tweeted the information. They've already done a Facebook post. They've already done an Instagram. They've already gone on LinkedIn. They've already done a TikTok, wherever post about it. So by the time you come and correct all these channels and many other channels that we do not know or we are not conversant about. So by the time you come back to correct and realize, oh, that was misinformation. So it takes a long time before you correct the information and it has already gone viral. So the information ecosystem has many channels, unlike the old information ecosystem. We knew it was only one channel that was there. We didn't have social media. There's no social media. The only thing we had were the standard media outlets, and that you had to wait for information from the newspaper. You had to wait for
yeah.
from the TV. If it's not on the newspaper and it's not on TV and it's not on radio, then you know that information is false.
That's very insightful. That's a very insightful example. So one thing I didn't talk about with regards to the old and the new information ecosystem was the fact that it also has an effect on revenue stream. So for instance, if in the old information ecosystem, where, for instance, if you are in South Africa, if a brand wants to advertise, for instance, because there were very few content creators, let's say if you are talking of SABC, that's the South African Broadcasting Corporation, TV channel, if there was supposed to be an advert or something, or their revenue stream, they essentially have a bulk of the revenue because there were very few content creators to share that same pool of resources. But in the new information ecosystem, now we have, because almost everyone is a content creator and almost everyone has monetized their content, for instance, we all get sort of a bit or just a little chunk of the revenue that comes with the work that we do, the information that is produced online. Let's now talk about the differences between the three forms of false information, or the three major distinctions, or the three major forms of information disorder we find in the new information ecosystem. So first, we have misinformation, we have disinformation, and then we have malinformation. So first, let me say that the difference between all these three essentially is the motive behind them. The motive behind them is what differentiates all these three. So the first one, misinformation, if we are to weigh all these based on the level of severity of the damage that is being caused, we can say that misinformation would be perhaps the lightest, because with misinformation, it is essentially sharing a wrong information based on ignorance. So you are sharing the information, but you didn't know that it was false. That is misinformation. An example can be, for those of you who use WhatsApp a lot, an example could be the popular forwarded many times, or forwarded, you receive a forwarded message from someone, or you receive a message that says forwarded as received. This is because the person is trying to tell you that he or she has not authenticated the information, but they are just sharing it out of ignorance because they think that it perhaps could be true. So the intention behind it is sort of, it's not malicious. The person is not intending to mislead you, but the person just thought that it was something worth knowing about. The next level is disinformation. Disinformation is a more orchestrated kind of a more orchestrated form of false information. So what this means is that the person or group of people actually sits down to plan that let's concoct this information and then let's share it either on social media, or let's push it to the media houses and then let's get them to publish. So this will usually happen, maybe politicians or business people who decide to just sit down, fabricate stories, and decide to share it with the intention of causing harm to someone, or causing harm to the business or someone, to ruin someone's reputation. So that is disinformation. So you can have political propaganda. All these things are examples where people sit down to deliberately create some information and throw it in because they want to change people's mind about something. So let's say that if the producer of drug A is about to launch their product, but they realize that already in the market, there is company B that is producing the same product. If company A decides to sit down and plan that, okay, let's decide to put some publications out there that company B, the product that they sell is poisonous and can cause sickness or death in children. Let's create that information and put it out there so that people will not buy their product but buy ours. That is a typical example of disinformation. This is deliberately planned. Point number 3, malinformation. So malinformation typically is, and the primary or the major example of malinformation is usually when you have the example or the phenomenon of people saying they are leaking, let's say, the sex tape of their loved ones. Maybe their relationship turns sour, and so he or she decides that they have some intimate photos together, and so they decide to share it on social media. Malinformation is the material could be real, but the intention is to just damage the person's reputation. Primarily that you want to score a certain point because something didn't turn in your favor. You want to score a particular point. So you decide to put out that information or that material to disgrace the person or to shame the person. So that is a typical example of malinformation. Leaking someone's nudes or someone's sex tape to cause disaffection for the person and to bring the person's name into disrepute and bring shame and disgrace on the person. So these are the 3 forms of information disorders we have. So all these 3, they are manifested in various ways in various news portals. So let's just say that one of these 7 points was developed by First Drafts. So they produced this material concerning the 7 forms of information disorders. And you see this typically in most of the news reports that you see online on various websites. So an example, for instance, is satire or parody. So with these, there is no intention to cause harm, but it has the potential to fool someone. So I'm sure a lot of you know examples of some websites that are specialized in producing parody. There is nothing wrong with it, except that it has the potential to fool people. And oftentimes, people mistakenly see this and then they decide to share it on WhatsApp without checking further to be sure. Because often what happens is that when people see something about satire or parody, they don't check the website to be sure whether is this website actually a news website or is just a parody or is a satire website. And unfortunately, some websites just hide at just a little corner of their website to say every content you read on this site is satire or parody. And so a lot of people don't see it and they decide to think that it is true. So that is an example of information disorder because it has the potential to fool people. Number 2 is misleading content. So the typical example for this is the misleading use of information to frame an issue or an individual. So they can post a certain information, but then the content in the information has very misleading elements. And so it has a tendency of misleading people. So it's also an example. We also have an imposter content. This is where people impersonate genuine sources. They impersonate genuine sources to share things. So let's say an example, if someone creates, we find that also in people using cloned accounts or cloned websites. So let's say that we have a website called ABC News, and someone decides to create a website called let's say ABD, for instance, just to create a misleading information. That one is an example of an imposter content, or someone using the name of a credible person, to put out an information. So for instance, let's say you have a situation where people they produce certain images, but then they have the name of maybe a reputable journalist on it, or they have a name of a reputable media house stated on it as being the source of that information. That is an example of an imposter content. And then we also have fabricated content. Okay, so for fabricated content, an example of a fabricated content would be when people the content is 100% false and is designed to deceive and to harm people. So that's an example of a fabricated content. We also have false connection, and often I think this is one of the most widely used, or this is one of the most common forms of misinformation or disinformation that we have around, false connection. So usually you will see that people have a wrong connection between the headline of a story and the story itself. So you realize that the headlines do not match the content of the story, or the visuals or the caption do not support the content of the story. So let's say that you have, I think recently, for those in Nigeria, recently there is this popular millionaire businessman called Obi Kubana. He was arrested by the Nigeria's, one of their anti-corruption agencies, the EFCC. He was invited to the EFCC, and after interrogations, he was released. So when he came out, one of the pictures that was circulated said that he took a selfie with the staff who actually invited him to question him about his money and all that. So they can have that as a featured image, and then give you, and then say that that is and give you a different content related to that particular story. That is an example of false connection. False context is also an example. Let's say that you are shown a picture of a politician or someone taking money from someone, and then the story comes out that that is the president receiving a bribe. It is true that the picture is showing the person taking some money, but the content or the context may be false, because although the picture is true, the person was taking money, the context is that the person was actually receiving a payment for a work done or something. Just an example. That is it. And then we also have manipulated content. So that is typically when a genuine information or an image is manipulated to deceive. So a typical example would be, for instance, as I'm seated here doing this presentation, if I decide to take a picture of myself and then I decide to do a Photoshop, which a lot of people are good at these days, and Photoshop myself and make it appear as if I'm at I'm at a conference somewhere in the UK, for instance. I'm in Accra now. That is a manipulated content. The image has been manipulated to tell a different story. So that is an example of manipulated content. So those are the 7 different forms of information disorder that you often see in any typical misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation. If there is any question, do feel free to just raise your hand, or you can leave it in the chat box, which I'm sure I should be able to see. I should be able to see and then react to. So do feel free to leave your questions, or yes, or if you have any comments you want to make as well. And even if I'm going too fast, also just let me know so I take it slow. All right. So the typical forms in which we have false information or information disorder coming. These days, they come in all multimedia forms. Okay. Is someone speaking? Wisdom, are you making a, okay, I think Wisdom is, all right. So they can come in audio forms, they can come in video forms, they can also come in text forms, they can also come as images. So we have to be particular about all this information. I mean, if you are consuming any kind of audio information, and for me, that was a surprising thing, that sometimes people even manipulate audios, because these days there are different kind of tools that help you do all this. So they manipulate audio to say something that originally someone wasn't saying. All right. So knowing that false information can come in all these 4 different formats, we have to know the different tools that can help us identify or detect false information in all these all these forms. So for every fact checker or for anyone who consumes information, your number one creed is that not everything you see is something worth believing. So seeing isn't believing. Even hearing also isn't believing, and even reading shouldn't also mean that you believe everything. All right. So how do we verify information? So verification can be as simple as cross-checking the date of a post, or as complex as using video forensics to determine whether something that you just watched is true or false. All right, so I'll play a video that we can look at and then we can discuss as an example. So you would wonder how something as simple as checking the date, something as simple as checking the date could be a form of verification. It is, because we talked about the fact that context is also very important. People use a false context to spread misinformation. So if you have something that happened in 2010, someone republishes that in 2021 and says that, look at what is happening. I saw this happened just yesterday. The information is because the date is wrong, the information as well is wrong, because the information the person is trying to put out is not exactly accurate. So if there is an election going on today, and then someone shares a video of an election violence that took place 5 years ago, and the person is telling you that this is what I'm monitoring from this current election, the date of that video, if you see the date, the actual date of that video, and you realize that it is from 5 years ago, it helps you. That's a form of verification. And then you know that the information you are witnessing is actually false. All right. So these are the manual ways of ensuring that you are not caught in the web of misinformation. First, you have to be aware of your personal biases. This is very important because a lot of times misinformation feeds on people's biases, either biases towards political parties, biases towards a particular tribe, biases towards their schools, biases towards their personal preferences or choice for certain places or things. It's very important that you are aware of these biases so that you are not caught in the web of misinformation, so that you are not caught sharing information because you think it is true, or sharing false information because they sort of confirm your bias about certain things. The second one is also always make sure that you read beyond the headlines, because like we discussed earlier, a lot of people through clickbaiting, for instance, will take advantage of people's not having time to read beyond the headline to create certain headlines that if you consume the information based on just headlines, you will be misled. And also number 3 is to make sure you are checking from the right source. So I talk also about people who are able to clone people's names, or based on people's credibility to try to put out false information. Also very important. Also check the source. If the person, you realize that the site is trying to impersonate another site, for instance, you have to be careful, because the chances that they are trying to put out information but trying to leverage on someone's credibility. So let's say if you see a website that is BBC, and then you see another one called BBCI or BCC, you realize that they are trying to create a certain brand that is similar to an already existing brand. It's also a way to be worried. Number 3 is that if you are watching a video, for instance, and then you see that sort of the video is not flowing seamlessly, and there are a lot of jump cuts, as in it's not flowing. You just see that it looks like the seams are just jumping. It could be a clue. It may not necessarily be that there are people are trying to piece certain things together to put out false information, but it could be one way to just be on red alert. If you see an image that is pixelated or highly blurry, it's also another red flag. Oftentimes, things that images that go very viral, sometimes that tend to be false. You realize that they begin to lose quality based on how widespread they go. So they lose quality. So it's also one of the things that you have to look out for. And also always make sure you check the dates of the information that are producing, whether video, whether it's audio, whether it's text. You have to make sure that the dates are right and the dates are actually as current as they should be. All right, so these are different tools that you can use for verification. We'll go through a few examples in the next slide. But first, one of the most common forms this information comes in are images. So, and the tools that you can use are reverse image searches. Reverse image searches are essentially the process where you put in a particular photo that is in dispute, or a particular photo that you doubt or that you have suspicions about. Therefore, the reverse image search does that. It just scans through the internet or scans on the web, and then brings out very similar images to try to show you that, okay, this image that you have uploaded and you want me to search for you, I have seen the same image that someone published 10 years ago. So based on that, if you are a fact checker, you're able to know that, okay, so this picture that someone sent me, that is a picture that was taken yesterday. Actually, this picture was uploaded on the web, somewhere on the internet 5 years ago. And so this person may not be the original author. This image that the person has sent to me is something that's already on the internet. Google Maps is also important, especially Google Maps satellite tool is very important for you to for fact-checking images. Also, we have a tool like Forensically. Forensically is also an offline video image verification tool that helps you to verify images. So Forensically, for instance, if you put in an image, it is able to tell you that this image, this particular part of the picture appears to have been manipulated because that place looks grainy, or it's not, it doesn't look original. So it gives you clues that help you to do your investigation, whether an image is true or false. The EXIF tools are also very important. They give details about images, the exact date they were taken, original date they were taken, the camera type that was used, and even sometimes for images that are very original, and for images that are not shared on social media, maybe you received them via email or something, and they still have their quality. It's able to tell you the camera that was used, sometimes the exact location that the picture was taken. So if someone sends you that image and says the image was taken somewhere else, these tools can also help you. When it comes to video verification, one of the most common that I use often is Invade video verification. Invade, it's an online tool that helps you do your verification. It has various tools under it. So for instance, if certain aspect of the video is not too clear, it's a bit blurry, sometimes it makes it a bit brighter, zooms in for you to see. It's able to break down a video into various key frames so that you're able to see whether any part of the video has been jammed. And then also when it comes to text, there are different open source libraries that help you give exact information about text. So for instance, if your local government official makes a certain claim about a national budget, for instance, you can get the information in the national budget that maybe the finance ministry may have. You find it in the document, it's in black and white. So that's an example. We also have the Wayback Machine. So the Wayback Machine is a very important tool. It archives like millions of web pages that have been uploaded on the internet. And so the Wayback Machine has billions of references. So for instance, if someone posted an information on the BBC website, and maybe that website is no more existing, but then there is a particular information I'm looking for that I don't find because the website is no more, I can't find it. If you go on the Wayback Machine, because of the tool's ability to store all these pages of websites, even if web pages and websites, even if they are not existing anymore, you're able to retrieve all these files to use for whatever investigation you want to do. And then we also have audio forensics for auditing or verifying audios. So essential skills that you need, I'm sure you would know by now that, first of all, you have to be very skeptical. You also have to be very curious as a fact checker. You also have to learn to be an independent researcher. You have to be analytical, and then you have to be very good with reporting. If it's just for your personal use, then you may not necessarily need a reporting. But if you are a professional fact checker, usually you write reports to educate others, for people to understand that the information you are putting out is true or false. All right. So let's look at some examples. So I'm just trying to go through some examples that I have here. I'll just share my screen briefly. So I'll just run you through an example of some of the fact checks. So let's look at one that has to do with the use of images. One that has to do with the use of images. So I'll be sharing my screen briefly so that we can assess that one. Okay. Okay. So this was done last year. So the claim was that this particular image was taken somewhere in Accra, and I want to refer. Okay, so let's say this is the post that someone put out, that Nanado is Ghana's president, by the way. So this post was put out that Nanado's daughter brightens Accra with these fantastic artworks. So this is the claim is that these images are artworks that were produced in Accra, or these images are things that were done in Accra. So it's a typical example of a claim, a photo claim. So the first two, or the most important two here, the common one to use is Google reverse image search. So let me just open, so you can find it at images.google.google. Images.google, let me think.com. All right. So I don't know if you can all see. So typically, this is how it looks like. So if you want to do a Google reverse image search, so for example, the image that was posted, let me save this again. So if I'm confronted with this image and someone tells me this is what someone has done in Accra, I can decide to save the image on my laptop, and then I open the Google reverse image search. And then what you can do is that you click on this little camera here, and then you can do a simple drag and drop. You do a simple drag and drop into the box. And then, like I told you, it will scan through the web and find out whether there are similar images on the internet somewhere, and then it's able to retrieve them. So let's look at what we find here. So it is giving us very visually similar images of these things that are seen elsewhere. So with this, you can continue your art and look through. So this is what I'm seeing here. So I'm seeing this picture titled Amsterdam Street Art. So it means that this picture has been uploaded in different parts of the internet. So let's go further. And I mean, like I said, you have to be curious. So we are trying to follow the trail to see where it will lead us, for us to see what exactly is the source of this particular image. So let's check this up on Facebook. Let's see how this looks like. Let me try to use my account to do this. Okay, so it is linking me to this particular Facebook page. It says this is Amsterdam Street Art, and it's showing me the same image that I downloaded earlier. You can see it, that same image. All right, so what this means is that this picture has been uploaded before. So as for the particular fact check that I showed you, my process was that after I did the first reverse image search, that brought me to this. It tells me that, well, if it's in Accra, how did this get to Amsterdam Street Art? So let's check in the other examples, or the other showings, that other results that came through as being the images that have been uploaded somewhere on the internet. Okay, we are seeing this also at attack say more. It's not given at the exact, I'm sure it's in the gallery. I'm sure it's in the gallery, so we'll have to go through its gallery. But let's just stay on the first one that we retrieved. Okay, so as curious as it sounds, what I did next was that, what is this signature of Martin Ron on the building? Who is Martin Ron? So I can decide to do a Google search. Let's see, it means that perhaps Martin Ron, as he stated here, may have a certain link to Amsterdam street art. So let me just put in Martin Ron, Amsterdam street art. Okay, so it appears that Martin Ron is actually someone, it's actually a human being. So let me just try to trace and find out whether Martin Ron has a collection I can go through, or he has a collection I can read from. Here it's already saying that Martin Ron is an Argentinian street artist based in Buenos Aires. I think, yes, that would be in Argentina. So it's giving us clues already. And all these clues are important to be able to know that this is leading us somewhere far away from Ghana. So without wasting much time and to move on to the other examples, let me just go through the process I did. So I did a reverse Google image search, and I realized that the photos matched those that were shared on September 3 by Martin Ron, and the photos were uploaded on his personal Facebook page. So I found out this was his Facebook page, and he had several collections of his work on that particular Facebook page. So you can decide to go through his personal collections to find out all the artwork that he had done. Let me see if that post is still existing. I think the collection is not, it has been taken down here, but that was a link that was directed to that. So I also found out that he also had other artworks that were done in his name that were painted elsewhere. So this is also an example of one that he had, another one that had been done because of the name. We traced the name to find out who he was. So the next step, like I said, an example was that you can use Google Map, the satellite image. So what I did after getting to his wall, I realized that he had given a description of where the painting or where the artwork was done. He mentioned a particular area, and I decided to put that particular area into Google Map. And in the Google Map, I was able to trace the exact location, and I did the mapping, what the map showed me versus what he found in his work. So in Google Map, this was the exact spot that I was able to find to use for this particular fact checking. So let me just go back to a second example. A second example, this will be an example from Nigeria. This will be an example from Nigeria. So first, we'll have to know what the claim is, and then we'll come to how we went about the fact checking. Okay, so this particular claim was that Nigerians in London had gathered to send Buhari back to Nigeria because at the time, Buhari had traveled to London to seek medical care. So some pages had shared this information to say that Nigerians had gathered. So as you can see, this is newslineniger.com. They posted on Twitter, and they had received over 3,000 retweets. More than 500 people had quoted the tweets. More than 7,000 people had liked it. That Nigerians had gathered to send Buhari back. So how do we do this? This is a case of an image. So again, Google reverse image search. There's not just Google. We also have TinEye. TinEye is also, it also does the same, it's also the same method essentially. So the same process, but Google is a bit more convenient for me. So sticking with Google. So based on the reverse image search, let me just try and do that again. Let me save this picture. And then let's go back to the images.google website. And then let's see what it says. So images.google.com. Our little camera, let's drag and drop the image in, and let's see what it produces. Okay, so as you can see, we have a lot of similar images shared online, this particular image. So let me click this and see what we find. So we find things on engine.opera.news. We have John Boyega exclusive. I mean, the same image essentially. So what did I do next? The first image was taken, we traced from the news reports, a lot of news reports actually, based on the search results, showed that the pictures, Nigerians were protesting outside their embassy on Downing Street, and that it was the EndSARS protest. So based on that clue, based on the information we picked. So for instance, I see this news publication from Premium Times, which I know is a credible website in Nigeria. So you can just visit the website to see what exactly they said about the image. So there's a story that's talking about someone talking about why he initiated the protest against Buhari in London. All right. So the picture shows that same. I think the picture is taking some time to load, but based on the work that was done, it showed that this picture was actually taken when there was an EndSARS protest in London. And then further search based on meticulously going through all the links to try to trace back to where exactly the picture was taken, for instance. So one of the things I did, I think I remember going to an international website, and I must say that on international website, they are very good at crediting the photographer, for instance. So on some of these international websites, you are able to see the author, the photographer, and then you're able to know when that photo was taken. It's not in this story. Let me try and see. So I found the name of the photographer after going through the website on some international website. I saw the photo on one of the international websites. And then I was able to trace the photographer as Guy Smallman. And that photo was hosted on Getty Images. So he uploaded the photo to Getty Images. So as you can see, this is actually the original photo that was taken. And the exact details there says that it was taken in London on October 21. Protesters chant outside Downing Street. And this was talking about police brutality in Nigeria, the EndSARS protest. So that is how you are able to trace back to see what exactly the source of the image exactly. So let's do one video. Videos are quite difficult to ascertain compared to images. So I talked about Google Images, so I'm sure by now we should be able to do a simple Google reverse image search. So let's try this third example, and then maybe we'll just do an assignment. If you are ready, we'll just do a simple assignment. So, okay. So this one says that Rawlings is Ghana's former president. He's dead now. So he died last year in November, I think, September, yes, in November. All right. So when he died, there was this video that was circulated on Twitter that was tied into a myth or a story that claimed that there was a time when Rawlings was a pilot, and so he decided to fly under a popular bridge. And so this was the video. I don't know if you can see the video. Okay, so after the fact-checking report was done, the video has been taken down. So as you can see, the tweets, this tweet is from a suspended account. So that channel has been known for putting out false information. And so that is some of the consequences for misinformation. I just thought I should have downloaded that video. Let me see. Okay, it's the same link. All right. So we decided to use the invade verification tool. So what the invade verification tool does is that it is able to break down the video into different keyframes. Let me try and see if I can retrieve the video somewhere. I think it will be helpful if we're able to find it. It will give us a better context to understand the work that was done. Okay, all right. So let's just try this. Okay, so this is the same video. So the person shows this video and says that this is a video of Rollins flying under the bridge. Okay, and the person has the caption there, Adomi Bridge. That's the name of the bridge. So the person has that label there as being the bridge. And so, well, you can see the display, very fantastic. So it's just a short video. So how do we approach a claim like this? So like I said, video verifications are a bit more difficult. So after assessing it, I realized there were a few challenges. So the challenges were that first, the video isn't too clear. Number two, we can't see the face of the person. So we can't say that was Rollins. And so how do we approach this? So I decided to use the invade verification tool. Let me just try and open it and show you how it looks like. Invade verification. This is actually a project. It's a project that was developed by some people to help verify videos. All right. So they actually have an extension, a plugin extension that you can add to your browser to do your verification. So essentially, this is the home page for the invade verification. You can add it to your extension so that you can run verifications on videos. So the process was that, so through invade verification, I was able to break down the sequences of the video clip. So what happened is that if you can even use a video player like VLC. So it's able to extract, let's say, like a timestamp of, let's say, about 30 pictures from the video. So it shows every frame, it breaks down every frame into different frames. So after I did all this, I captured just one aspect of the video. And like I said, you have to be very curious and you have to be very analytical. I realized that if I'm not getting the face of the person showing, the face of the person flying the thing, what other means of verification can I use? So for instance, so in the video, there are other clues that I could pick. I realized that there are certain banners up there that looks like perhaps they are sponsoring the event or something. So I'll have to try and find out who these people are. In other instances, in other video verification that I've done, sometimes it has to do with trying to look in the background of the video. What language are the people in the video speaking? If you tell me that people are in, let's say, Nigeria, and you show me a video of people speaking a certain language, and you tell me, oh, these are people fighting somewhere in Ghana, and I'm hearing Yoruba in the background, it gives me an indication. Perhaps it may not be Ghana, but at least it gives me a clue that let's try to dig further. How would people in Ghana be speaking Yoruba, which would be a Nigerian language? So in other instances, it can be you realize that a video is taken in front of a shop, and you realize you see a phone number there. Based on the mobile phone code, you can know the country code of the phone number that you see in the video. You can know the country it was taken from. So all these things are various ways that you can pick clues from video, languages, maybe some flags, whether they are phone numbers. These are things that you can pick as clues from videos. All right. So in this particular instance, I saw these banners. This isn't too clear, but this one looks like Writers, RYTAS. So I decided to do an advanced Google search, and it linked me to this page on Reddit. So it linked me to this page on Reddit that mentions the company Writers. And then again, this person posted this 2 years ago and said, this is Jagis Kairas, who was performing an inverted flight under the bridge in 2000. So that's curious. How would someone say this is Rollins? Someone is saying it's another person. So can we dig further to see who this Jagis Kairas is? And so I take that photo and did further check on who the person is. And then it leads me to different websites talking about this particular person. It was in a different language. So try to convert it, try to read and understand what they were talking about, having some challenges with the conversion. But I realized the story was essentially talking about the pilot or the one who flew the aircraft and gave details about what the aircraft was all about. So these were all websites that did publications about the story. So based on that, I was able to know the name of the person, his age, and when he did all that. So I picked that. And then again, I used that information to do another Google search. And then it led me to this YouTube page. So on this YouTube page, I realized that this is actually the original of the video that went around to say that was Rollins flying the plane. And this was taken in July 2006. This was uploaded July 2006. The original said, not a story about a Lithuanian heroin addict, but this is insane. I mean, it's a sarcastic description, but it confirms that this was by a different pilot, a Lithuanian, and not Rollins. So that was how this fact check report was done. Let me see if we can do the last example. Okay, so I also talked about text, for instance. So how did a fact-checking report about something and information that went viral in Ghana? So this was a political claim talking about Ghana going back to HIPIC. So in this instance, this is a pure text story. This is a pure text story. So this claim, social media users claim that the government of Akufo-Addo, Ghana's president, had led Ghana into an IMF program that is a heavily indebted poor country, HIPIC program. So this information was shared around, including, famous politicians sharing this information. So how do we approach this when we are fact checking? This is a pure text. So is it true that Ghana has gone back to HIPIC or not? And what made it a bit more interesting was that all those who made the claim added a photo that showed Ghana on the list of HIPIC. So this is curious. So if you go back to the IMF or the World Bank's website, like I said, text examples, you get them from open source data, you get them from documents, research report, and things like that. So they are saying that those making the claim tell you that if you go to the IMF website, Ghana is there, that Ghana is on a HIPIC program. So it means Ghana has gone to HIPIC. It means the government is not managing the economy well and all that. But what is the truth? So in my report, I just explained a bit about what the HIPIC is and all that. So the verification is that, well, indeed, I went on the IMF website and I saw Ghana's name in the list of HIPIC countries. But let's not forget that we talk about context when we are doing, when we're talking about the different forms of misinformation. The picture could be true, the information could be true, but the context is wrong. So to get further clarification, I sent an email to the IMF and the World Bank asking them that this is what I've seen. How do you explain this? And now they sent me a response. They responded back to give further clarification. And in their response, they simply said, well, it is true that Ghana's name is in the list of HIPIC countries. But what happened is that Ghana was in the the list of HIPIC countries several years ago. That was in 2002. And when Ghana left the HIPIC program in 2004, per our policy, so far as you have benefited from the program, your name will continue to be in the list. So if you see the list, in 2025, you see it in 2026, it doesn't mean that Ghana has gone into the HIPIC program again. It means that Ghana has ever participated in the HIPIC program. So that context is important for us to know that it's not as if Ghana has gone back to HIPIC, but it means that because the country went more than 10 years ago, per IMF and the World Bank record, the name will still be in the list. And I decided to confirm from their email, trying to check from using the Wayback Machine, as I said. The Wayback Machine archives website. So the Wayback Machine is able to show me how the IMF website looked 5 years ago, how it looked 2 years ago, how it looked 3 years ago. Let me just try and show you how the Wayback Machine looks like, so that you can, on your own, do other searches using the Wayback Machine. Okay, so this is how the Wayback Machine looks like. So let me put in a website like www. Let me see, what's the IMF website? IMF. So imf.org. Okay, so let's put it in and see how the Wayback Machine works. So the Wayback Machine, it has only records of how the IMF website looked like in January. So it shows you a snapshot. So even in January, in February, it takes like a snapshot of how the website looked on all these dates that you see in blue. So let's see how the website looked on January 16, 2021 at exactly 8:26 a.m. So you click on that. It's able to show you how the website looks. Okay, so on in January, this is how the IMF website looked. And this was all the information I had on the website as of that day. So even if the IMF had deleted this particular story, through the Wayback Machine, I am able to go back to that story and see the story. And this will be the last tool that we are talking about. So through the Wayback Machine, I traced back to see how the website looked in August 2016. So let's see how the August 2016, how it looked like. So in August 2016, in the list of heavily indebted poor countries, based on how the website looked, as you can see, Ghana is here already. That means that in 2000, as far back as 2016, Ghana's name was still in the list. Let me go back. I use other dates. So March 2016, Ghana's name was there. Let's look at December 2014. December 2014 records also show, this was a document from the IMF. It showed again that Ghana was in the list of heavily indebted poor countries, as you can see. So tracing back, trying to date back to using all these processes, the report concluded that yes, even though Ghana's name is duly captured in the World Bank's data portal as being among highly indebted poor countries, it does not mean that the country has opted to go into the HIPIC program again, but it means that since the country joined in 2002 and ended in 2004, the country has consistently stayed in the HIPIC program. So that is just, I think that is where we end the example. The examples, let me go back to the slide so that we can conclude on the session. If you have any questions, you can prepare your questions so that we take them before the session ends. All right, so back to the screen. All right, so with some of the tools we've talked about, we talked about the Google reverse image search. We talked about using the Invade verification tool, and then also the Wayback Machine, how the Wayback Machine works. And the good thing is that these days, Facebook, Twitter, and a lot of the social media platforms are helping. So if you are trying to tweet a story or a link that you've not read, for instance, you are likely to see something like this on a screen that is saying that, do you want to read the article first? Because the chances are that a lot of people share misinformation without knowing. So as soon as you try to retweet without reading, it reminds you that you've not read it. So do you want to read to be sure of what you have, what you want to share? That's it for Twitter. For Facebook, often you will see things like this. When you see a post on Facebook, you will likely see something covering the image like we have here that says that false information checked by independent fact checkers. So Facebook is working with a number of independent fact checkers and fact checking organizations to fact check claims. So there are certain rumors or certain misinformation that if you try to share it, you see something like this. Facebook reminds you that this is a false information. So the details, it will give you the details and tell you independent fact checkers say this information has no basis in fact. So it guides you so that before you share anything, you know that this information you are sharing is false. And also it is because of advocacy by fact checkers that we have platforms like WhatsApp now. Previously, when you share, when something is shared consistently on WhatsApp, you don't get that little information there that's it's a forwarded message or it has been forwarded many times. But now you have that as well, also to guide you, for you to know that this is something that has gone viral, that someone is sharing. So it means that before you consume it, you have to be very careful about it. Delight, you are asking to go over the video verification. So let me just deal with that just in the next minute. Let me deal with that in the next minute again, just for your sake, so that you can go over. Let's see. So the link is, let me put that in the chat box so that everyone can get it. So for Google, it is images.google.com. images.google.com. So you can put it in images.google.com. And this is, let me share the screen again, sorry. All right, so this is how it looks. So if you already have your image downloaded, you can just do a drag and drop and put it in. It just searches on the internet and it retrieves where this image has been uploaded. So based on this, so you see the image we uploaded up there, and then see very similar ones that have been uploaded by others elsewhere. So based on that, you can search to trace back to see that when was the first time this image was posted online. So it's showing here by, it says October 2021, November 2021. So you can do this, go through to see when the image was actually first posted online. So like I said, we also have 10i. 10i also works in the same way, just like the Google reverse image search. So it's also 10i.com. It's 10i.com. So it also works the same way. You can click here to upload your image. So based on that, you decide to do your upload. So also, it also allows you to do a drag and drop. It also allows you to do a drag and drop, so you can just drag and then drop it in. So it also searches the internet and then retrieves from the archives where very similar images have been used. So sometimes based on the platforms, the one that gives you the flexibility. So you realize Google showed a lot more of those images than 10i. So you decide which platform works best for you and then use that platform for your work. And the good thing is that these tools can be used on your mobile phone. So it makes it easier for you if you want to do a quick fact check. You want to do a quick fact check on any information. It makes it easier for you to do that. So let's look at, let's go back to the presentation and round up. Let's look at a presentation and round up. Let's round up. Okay. So let me share my screen again. All right. So if you have questions, you can leave the question in the chat box. I'm just rounding up. So with the examples that we've gone through, I'll conclude by, I know we are from different countries, but for those who are in Ghana, these are platforms that you can, these are fact-checking organizations that you can contact for fact-checking reports. I think Dubawa is the one that has presence in different countries. Dubawa has presence in Ghana, Nigeria, Gambia, Sierra Leone, and yes, and in Nigeria as well. So you can send messages, make contacts. If you have claims that you want to be fact-checked, if you send them messages or you send them a message on Facebook or Twitter, they are able to fact-check the information and put out the reports. So in the next 2 minutes, if you have any questions, you can unmute your mic, or if you have contributions to make, you can unmute your mic, but that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you all. So I'll be waiting if you have questions or if you have any contribution to make on the subject. So any question, the next minutes, any question, any contribution, before we bring the session to a close. It's now 11:46, so maybe 47, we will bring a close to this session. Any question?
Hello, Jonas.
Hi.
Delight here. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for the informative session we've had. It's very educative and very brief, straight to the point. I really like it. Thank you very much. Just recently, I've been scammed to a sum of about 1,000 CDs. Yes, that's how come I was asking of the image verification, because some images were sent and I would like to try to see whether I could trace wherever it's coming from. So thank you very much.
Okay, that's a very interesting point. Thank you very much, Delight. I don't know if you are not able to conclude your investigation, you can contact me. So another example that I couldn't share was, I know a lot of you may have a lot of examples of a lot of these scams that you find, links, suspicious links that are sent to people on WhatsApp that tells you that click on this for a $500 coupon, or click on this for a job recruitment, or things like that. That is also one of the things that we do fact-checking reports on. Click on this for a shopping voucher and things like that. So there's another example that I could have shown, because of time. I couldn't show that. So in case your example, Delight, in case your example falls in that area, we can try and explain, see if we can help bring some further clarification or further understanding to link to the source of this particular information. Thank you very much, Delight. Anyone else? There is no further question or contribution. Thank you again. Finally, you can follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, and also my email is there in my website. You can do get in touch if you need help for yourself personally to fact check some information, or to do some background investigation or fact checking some information. I'll be available to help. If not, like the phone numbers or the contacts I shared about for the other fact-checking organizations, you can contact them for assistance on any of these things. So thank you all very much and have a wonderful afternoon, and do enjoy the rest of the session at this year's Africa Digital Skills conference. Thank you very much. Right. Bye.